Hollywood does not understand Resident Evil. And I'm not just talking about Mary Sue OCs constantly showing up the game cast, bizarre alternate takes on established characters, race swapping, or that the games are actually good and the movies should probably try copying that at some point. What I mean is, Resident Evil is not The Walking Dead. A mistake made with both the Anderson movies and the Netflix TV series, Rot in Hell You Worthless Piece of Crap, is that the story reaches the point of a worldwide zombie apocalypse. Or in other words,
complete global saturation.
To fully understand where I'm coming from here, let's compare the escalation of the outbreaks between the early games and the early movies. In the Anderson series, there is an outbreak in the lab under the mansion in the first film. The second film sees the zombies get out of the lab and spread the virus down into Raccoon City, which is then destroyed with a nuclear bomb. The third film reveals that the virus managed to spread beyond the city limits before that, resulting in a worldwide apocalypse. The first game is about an outbreak in the lab under the mansion as well. Then the second and third games are about an outbreak in Raccoon City caused by rats eating the infected flesh of soldiers killed by G. Birkin and then getting into the city's water supply. Then Code Veronica is about 2 outbreaks on a remote island and a facility in the Antarctic. Each event is completely separate and distinct, even if the virus being released is the same each time. The only instances of 2 outbreaks in the entire series being directly connected are the 2 in the Arklay Mountains seen in Resi 1 and 0, evacuees from Rockfort Island spreading that outbreak into the Antarctic base, and the Spencer Rain outbreak spreading to the Atlantic facility. And the latter 2 cases occurred in a single game each. But the games never had a single worldwide zombie apocalypse, and this decision has 2 major effects on the games that make them the superior experience to the films, and highlights how the films have consistently failed to carry the spirit and feel of the source material they are relying on the name of to sell their dogshit scripts. It's not just that they don't copy the games one-to-one, and it never has been, so stop using that as an excuse. First, we have variety. By having standalone, isolated outbreaks, the games can have variety in what virus or parasite or fungus is spreading, T-virus, Las Plagas, C-virus, Mutamycete, etc. Each one comes with its own set of infected and monsters that have their own unique feels. T, C, and T-phobos may all make zombies, but each strain brings unique properties to the base zombie unit. And that's to say nothing of the vast distinctions between the more intelligent victims of Las Plagas and the Kadu. And in addition, each new infection brings with it a unique host of non-human monsters of various sizes, shapes, intelligence levels, and even superpowers. This allows the series to remain fresh despite how many games there are. Across just the games, there are around 16 distinct outbreaks and outbreak groups, with around a third being the T-virus. And even then, the monsters featured add enough spice to make each new entry feel somewhat fresh. In the films though, it's just basic bitch zombies until it came time to crib Magini from Resi 5, with only the occasional monster thrown in to spice things up. It all feels so monotonous when viewed as a whole, while the games continue to introduce new common monsters, even with similar strains, such as the enemies in 7 and 8 coming from separate offshoots of the same source mold, leading to vastly different enemies between the two. The other major effect is on the tone of the series. In the films, each new entry continued the story deeper and deeper into the apocalypse until only a small number of humans were left by the end of the 6th film series, making for a very bleak and depressing note to end on. And the Netflix show jumps back and forth between a full-on apocalypse and the inciting events 14 years prior. But in the games, each outbreak being isolated means that once the game ends and the cleanup by the BSAA or Blue Umbrella or whoever else is going on, the nightmare is over for another day. And yes, there will continue to be outbreaks for as long as the series goes on, but if Capcom stopped making these games forever as of tomorrow, we could rest easy knowing that our heroes won in the end. They ended Bioterror forever and their world is safe. In the movies though, not only would the apocalypse still be going on after the abrupt end, it's still going on after the cure is released at the end of film 6, meaning there really is no end to this. And as for the show, it did get cancelled without any resolution, so you can actively see what I mean here. Maybe this ultimately comes down to a difference in Eastern and Western philosophy on the subject matter, but in the games, there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel that Chris, Leon, Jill, Claire and the rest can strive for and potentially one day reach. Each outbreak is self-contained enough to feasibly put a complete stop to it. Not very realistic, neither are zombies, so fuck you, it can happen. But with a full-on apocalypse, how can it realistically end? This is an issue The Walking Dead faced, where the only way the series could end was everyone dying, the heroes reaching a point of relative comfort with the threat still out there, finding a cure, or some Deus Ex Machina to end the zombie threat forever. Every zombie apocalypse story is like this. That's why the Romero Dead series never has any real conclusion, and it's why emulating that kind of story just inherently does not feel like Resident Evil. One might think productions made in countries that call it Resident Evil instead of Biohazard would understand that. But alas, even after Resident Alice ended, new live action adaptations continue to slap the Resi name onto unrelated zombie schlock because it won't sell otherwise. It's a sad state of affairs when Welcome to Raccoon City is the only one that has a real Resident Evil vibe, in spite of it pulling a Battle of the Realms and trying to do too much with too little time. The story, for all its many faults, is about a self-contained outbreak in Raccoon and the surrounding forest, meaning that the sequel that will likely never happen could retain the spirit of the series by continuing with separate outbreaks. In fact, the director has expressed interest in adapting Code Veronica, Resi 4, 7 and 8. While it could easily be smaller parts of a larger apocalypse, I suspect that, looking at how much more Resident Evil this adaptation was than anything else done in the West, it would likely stick to smaller outbreaks. As sad as it is when Welcome to is the most accurate live action take, let's hope that the next adaptation takes a few pages from this film's book and doesn't think it's clever by being about another generic zombie apocalypse as a metaphor for COVID or some other such fart-sniffing, pretentious, I make real art Hollywood bullshit. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended series is Resi December Evil by Matt Draper, a recently concluded theme month on the games and movies, including those that never were. How is it that the Romero script, for all its faults, is still the most faithful live-action Resident Evil, even after 7 movies and a TV show were made after it was canned?